Okay, let's round off our look at the magnificent Andrew Webster, at least with the white pieces in the Sutton 1999 Congress. So in the final round, Webster was up against Gavin Wall. I believe the G is for Gavin. So C4 again. Okay, and we're going to mix with G3. So G3 is a logical complement, going for that D5 square, nice and positional. Avoid all the opening theory, just try and get a strategic grip on the position. So bishop G2. And already, don't you think white's position looks beautiful here? No theory, just controlling D5. Wonderful stuff. Okay, so G6, E3. Okay, this is an interesting move. E3, so the flexibility for knight Ge2, not just like knight F3. So that will keep the F pawn able to go to F4. So maybe, you know, white wants an iron grip, not just on D5, but also on E5. He can have a pawn on F4, say supported by a bishop on this diagonal. We're going to have two bishops running across the board, with pawns here and here, eyeing these two central squares like this. So anyway, so bishop G7, knight E2, and now knight H6. So black has his own positional plans and ideas for the centre as well. If the knight can come to F5, D4 is going to be under fire, which would question if white did play D4. Is he going to be provoked further forward for D5? Wouldn't that weaken dark squares even more? So extending the scope of that bishop. So knight H6 has got some venom to it. And now here a non-stereotypical move was played, okay, to try and exploit the specific details of this position. The move played actually was H4. I don't know how many of you English opening defence players would have played like this. So it's weakening the king side though as a side effect. I know there's potential H-file pressure, but this is very interesting. White in this game is not going to castle king side. He's just going to try and use his trump cards of the light squares and pressure and build on those. So knight C3, bishop G4. So again, a logical idea. Maybe the bishop will exchange off itself just to get an iron grip on D4. But F3 avoids that kind of exchange. Also highlights E4, but it does weaken more squares now. So G4. So stopping the idea of knight F5. Also sealing potentially E4 as a nice square for one of the knights to come here later. E5, maybe weakening D5 a little bit. Okay, now G5, so inviting the black knight to come to F5. There's ups and downs to this move. The thing is, with G5, it's clamping down on F6, and this reminds me a bit of my game with Basman, I think, from the Sutton of another year, which I might go into my next video. You see, with G5 then, a knight on E4 is actually strong, because F5s are disrupted because of the en passant rule, you know, G takes F. So knight F5, knight E4, and that's also added to the fact that the knight has to get in the way if black's ever going to play F5 later. Okay, H6 trying to undermine white's structure, but it's quite secure at the moment with that mighty knight on E4. Knight 2 to C3. Again, the position looks sort of has a warmth to it, a comfort to it. The light squares in particular, you know, black's you know, disciplined pawn structure on putting pawns on the dark squares here means these squares are lit up positionally. Okay, so HG, HG, rooks come off, so there's definitely no castling on the king side for either side. Bishop E6, B3, so the bishop has to be deployed somewhere, I guess, so it could come to B2 maybe, or even bishop A3 might be useful. In fact, in the game after king D7, so non-routine moves from both sides, very interesting creative kind of game, leaving opening theory, not only that, creating a sort of wild jungle, you know, a mass of pieces, seemingly trying to have some sort of battle for the centre, but with the kings doing their own thing here. So bishop A3, and in fact another point of king D7 is black can start attacking the white king. So queen H8. Black seems to have a very nice prospects here actually, but the king has got an evacuation plan. King E2, believe it or not. Now knight B4, trying to stop the king coming from to D3. So black's got the killer instincts, but so this is one of the points. The evacuation plan was kind of maybe prompted that bishop A3, anticipating a knight B4. So it's all rather clever actually, because now bishop takes B4, giving white that escape square. So c takes knight d5. Now this is unbelievable insight into the position, basically, or just a bit of luck. That knight d5 invites bishop d5, putting a pawn on d5, which is a potential tactical liability. The thing is, will black ever get enough time to comfortably capture that pawn whilst shielding his king from the queenside pressure? If white can arrange a heavy artillery to come on the queenside, then it's going to be a problem regaining that pawn once, you know, once it's won. So bishop takes cd, knight e7. Is this pawn a major problem? Well, the next move highlights that it might not be. Rook c1. And I've done, you know, quite a bit of engine analysis the other day on this, in preparing for this. I'm not going to bore you with details, but it seems knight takes d5 is too risky. There's variations like queen c2, and even if rook c8, then take, and then knight d6, knight takes f7. Okay, I will show you that actually. That's kind of key to this. Why can't black take on d5? I think that's one of the simple variations. So knight takes d5, queen c2. So say now rook c8. I mean, there's probably more accurate moves, but rook c8 is a disaster move. Just take. Pardon me. And now knight takes d6. Knight takes b7 also. Forget knight takes f7. Knight takes b7 might be even stronger. Big advantage for white. So in this position, if that pawn's immune, okay. It's interesting. So queen c2. Let's look at another move. Say queen h5. Queen c4. This is the problem. As soon as queen c4 happens, this munching of the pawn is starting to be punished. Say king e6. Now this diagonal is also potentially dangerous. So knight f2. So there's a threat now potentially of knight g4 or f4 if this pawn wasn't pinned. So say, okay, let's give a token move, rook h8. Oh, there's also the more unsubtle threat, just e4. So this is how, anyway, in a nutshell, it's kind of punishing potentially for black to take that pawn on d5. So this justifies this whole strategy on light squares, that even if in this worst case scenario that a pawn lands instead of a piece on a key light square outpost, it's not so bad. So rook c1 underlines all that. Queen h2 check. The king uses its escape square, and everything there is still on. The queen c2 ideas are even more venomous because there's not even the rook c8, even if black wanted. So rook c8 now though, and the rooks come off. Okay, so how does white gain compensation now? The pawn's going to be taken off slowly. Again, the knight can just threaten to come and take that pawn. Well, Andrew does something about his worst piece in the position. He must have asked the question, you know, okay, what is the worst piece? And it's the bishop on h1. How do I get, you know, it to be better? Well, this diagonal looks a bit tasty. So how do we get that bishop on that diagonal? Well, queen f1, because that supports now bishop g2 to h3, and then get back there, coordinate this guy, and then the king's had it. So knight b6, bishop g2, offering that pawn again. So the gambit, will it be taken this time? Yes, it is. So bishop h3, and we've got the attack. But how to play the attack? Careful implementation, not queen c1 because queen takes h3. First plonk the bishop on c8 and then invade with the queen. So these two guys are going to coordinate. So knight b6, now queen c1. Okay, the bishop can be lost for the knight to get rid of the defensive piece around the opponent's king, because the knight and queen can work together against the black king. This bishop's just sitting as a spectator at the moment. So king d8, black refuses to take the bishop, but bishop takes b7. Okay, black's in real trouble. And now it looks as though this move d5, does white need to move the knight? No, Andrew plays a magnificent piece sack. Bishop takes d5. All he needs in this position is queen and knight to gain a formidable attack. Knight takes d5, queen c4, and now he's actually, you know, queen takes f7. It's starting to get really bad for black. This queen and knight are potentially deadly combination. Also, the pawns are dropping off. as quickly as they possibly can, if Andrew wanted them as well. But he doesn't. He doesn't want his king to come under attack, so he's going for the black king. That's the top priority here, not to do with material. Knight c5, just threatening to mate black on the next move on the spot. So black now plays a resourceful defence. e4, okay, check, and now queen d6, and now here king c4. So the knight's well, this knight's threatening a nice fork, so this can't move naturally, say, to e7 if black wanted to lose the bishop. So it's a bit of a disaster, this position, but a very clever looking move. Queen d4 check is played, offering the queen to get a fork on these guys. So it's taken. Knight d6. Unfortunately, this ending is now lost because of this knight e6 check. It's a bit of a wild game, wild tactical game with both sides not castling. It's an amazing, for a last round game, pretty dramatic stuff. But after d5, black had enough. He doesn't want to play this position on, or alternatively might have just lost on time. But it doesn't look too good for black here. I think, say king f7, I think knight e6 is the simplest. Then there'll be 2 pawns in the centre, and then white will create a zugzwang, just block the g pawn. These 2 pawns wouldn't be able to be taken, and then just eventually win the g pawn after black's run out of moves. I mean, that looks like a simple winning plan. Just knight e6 here. Okay, let's have a look at that again. So an interesting round 7 from Sutton 99, securing Andrew winning this tournament. So I had very fond memories of this tournament this Saturday. It was played in a very cosy library with books around, wonderful venue. And then later, myself and my friends from Barnet and Muswell Hill, Costas Karionis, Alex Efelontis, Paul Georgiou, we migrated to the South End, which also is a very nice tournament run by conscientious and hard-working organisers. Andrew's dad is a very good organiser as well, but at the South End, Howard Grist, who arranged my CM, so he's organising the South End now, and that became the substitute for what to do at Easter, for an Easter Congress. Okay, but anyway, so g4 e5. So let's look at this game just quickly. Both sides not castling, and this wonderful idea that the d5 pawn, is it going to be chopped off at black's leisure? It seems that the compensation existed in the position. It was always emphasised with these nice queen moves that the bishop's going to get to that diagonal, going to get into the attack, and then it sacrifices itself just to leave the queen and knight to attack the black king. So forcing black into desperate measures. And sort of just a lost endgame after all that. Okay, after d5. Hope you enjoyed it. Please leave any comments or questions on YouTube. Thanks very much.